What is up, everybody? Whoa, hear that reverb? That sounds pretty cool. Let's turn that down. What's going on? Here for another live show. We are going to, I'm not sure if people want this, um, but I'm going to do it anyway because um, it's a show that I really, well, I want to enjoy, but I'm just not. So you can probably figure out where this episode's going to go. But we're going to take a look at Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, episodes 2 and 3. The fourth one came out, so I'm probably going to watch that one this week, if at all possible. But I want to get everyone caught up on episodes 2 and 3. I did episode 1. You can check out that video on YouTube if you want to check out. Go to the live streams on the channel, and it'll be listed there. Let me share my screen with you so I can bring up the actual episodes like I did last time. There's a lot less going on in these two episodes, so we'll probably be able to get through both of these episodes within the same amount of time that I did just episode 1. Really, a lot of nothing happens in these two episodes, and we're going to go through that real quick. Like I said, I don't know if people even want me to do this, but I'm going to do it regardless because this is one of my favorite things. I really wish I loved the show. I remember, so I had a podcast with my really, really close friends, my best friends. Hopefully, they're going to be on the podcast this upcoming weekend. And we had like 200 something episodes, and I remember the exact moment where my buddy Joe always did the news. He always started the show with entertainment news. And I remember the day he said, "Did you guys hear that?" I think he said at the time Showtime or HBO was doing. I can't remember who, but he said they're going to make a live action Lord of the Rings TV show. And this was at like the height of Game of Thrones, if I remember correctly. And TV was pretty good back then, if I remember correctly. But all I know is like we were in good moods. We were in good spirits at the time with TV and movies, and a lot different than it is now. But we were so pumped. We were so hyped because people were getting it right, right? People were getting TV right at the time. And people just now just aren't getting it right, right? For whatever reason. But back then, I want to say there was maybe 20 it had to be probably 2018, 2019 in that range. We were so excited for a live action Lord of the Rings, especially if we thought HBO was doing it. Because HBO was doing Game of Thrones, and they like every season was just better than the next. But before we do get into this, I want to just tell everybody, subscribe, hit the bell. We need to up our subscriber count as much as we possibly can. So if you like the content, please subscribe and hit the bell. It helps the algorithm. You hear this on every YouTube video you watch, right? There's always a pitch for this. But I know we have good viewers, right? We have way more viewers than we have subscribers. So if you watch the video, just take a second, hit subscribe. It helps us out. I'm gonna keep doing it regardless, but yeah, it really does help us out. And the more exposure we get, the more likely we'll give you more content. I'm trying to give you as much content as I possibly can, given that I have children and jobs and all that kind of stuff. But I'm trying my best. You can find us on Spotify now. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. Apple Podcasts finally they changed our artwork. Okay, when you make a podcast, the first thing you have to do when you make a podcast is you have to upload artwork. And the artwork we had, like they won't let you create a podcast without artwork. So like we had this very rudimentary artwork, and we uploaded it, we made the channel, and then the channel just sat there for like 2 years. We didn't do anything with it. And then we finally decided we're going to do this and put it on the air and stuff like that. And I was fooling around with AI. If you like our artwork, it's all artificial intelligence, unfortunately. But I think it's really cool looking, and I like it. And it took forever for Apple to update the artwork on Apple Podcasts. I put us on Spotify, I put us on Amazon, I put us on SoundCloud. Um, even put us on the Google Podcast Network, which doesn't even exist anymore, but they still let you add one, oddly enough. But all those artworks are fine. And then when you search for us on Apple Podcasts, a different logo came up, and I'm pretty certain that no one was looking us up at the moment to to subscribe and couldn't find us. But now all is good. The logo is the correct logo, and we're good to go with that. So if you can't listen on YouTube, or you don't feel like listening on YouTube, every video I do goes there. And if you're listening to this on a podcast, you can check it out on YouTube, which is where we are now, right? So on YouTube, it's Toxic Fandom Pod, and on Apple Podcasts and everything else, it's Toxic Fandom Podcast. So, Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, Season 2, Episode 2 is on the screen. All right, so this is what we're looking at. So it starts off with a previously kind of introduction to what happened. And like I did before, I'm just gonna skip every 10 seconds. But in the first episode, we didn't see any of the dwarves. So it starts off giving us a background on the dwarves. And we also didn't see Gandalf not Gandalf. And we didn't see the hobbits not hobbits, or Poppy and Sesame Seed. That's what I call them anyway. So that they're going to be heavy in this one. And we also didn't see much of new Sauron. Oh, we saw a little bit of Sauron, but not as much as in this episode. But we're gonna go through it like I did before, and just kind of skip through it. So we see Disa. This is Disa. She's the very, very annoying wife of Durin, who's kind of like the prince of the elves, I guess. His dad is the king of the elves, and she's the wife. And I don't want to say she's annoying as an actress or anything like that. She's just the only thing they ever have her do is yell at her husband. And I kind of want to watch TV to escape reality. And that is just putting me into my exact reality for the most part, right? I mean, I think a lot of husbands would feel like they don't want to watch a wife yell at a husband in a show constantly, because it kind of reminds you of home sometimes. But that's all, like anytime she's on the screen, she's just not happy with her husband. But we'll get into that later. Um, Elrond went into hiding because of the ring, because he stole the rings. But this is stuff from last year. Oh, we didn't see these people last year. These are the don't know who they are. We do get a little bit of them in this episode. A lot of people think that they might be the Nazgul, the ring wraiths, right? Remember those from the Lord of the Rings movies? Which I can't see them doing that, because the ring wraiths are 9 men that got rings of power, and these are very obviously females. Um, Other podcast outlets were calling them the Nazgals, which I thought was a pretty funny nickname for them. There's our Gandalf, not Gandalf, right? Because Gandalf's not supposed to be in it yet. But this has to be him. This has to be Gandalf, and we'll talk about him more. There's our Norian and stuff. And here's the end of the first season 1, where Galadriel's trying to kill Sauron, because this is where she finds out it's Sauron, and then he gets away. So this season starts off with the dwarves. So we go into Khazad-dûm, and we see the dwarves, and they're not having a great time here. Here, Durin's getting yelled at by his wife about something. Durin, in the last season, he got yelled at. Him and his dad had kind of a falling out. They kind of butted heads with one another, and they disagreed about something. So they're like not on good speaking terms. And she's trying to get him back on good speaking terms with his dad. But we start off with the elves, and there's issues going on in the mountain that they reside in currently. And apparently, I guess Disa is a singer, and she gets to sing to the mountain every now and then. Here's the introduction. Okay, we open up with a bad dream. Okay, here's Galadriel having a nightmare, and that is Celebrimbor. He is the guy that makes all the rings for Sauron without knowing he's making rings for Sauron, and she knows that it's Sauron at this point. He doesn't. So this is a dream she's having, and it's kind of like a vision, I guess, where I guess this vision is telling her to make sure that he finds out before something bad happens. So in this little vision, everything goes dark, and a tree kind of takes control of Celebrimbor. And I get very Stranger Things vibes from this scene. Remember in the Upside Down when the monster is kind of like part of the tree and it's all red and black like that? It gives me very Stranger Things vibes there. But she's having this vision, I guess, or this daydream while she's in like kind of like a court almost, or like like these are all the generals of the elves, right? And she's one of the generals of one of the northern armies, which I think is laughable because you never see her with an army ever. But they want to make her, this powerful military leader for some reason. That's what they're doing with her, right? That's not her purpose. So it's kind of annoying that they're doing it with her, but they're doing it with her, so you got to accept it, right? So they kind of they're kind of planning out, a strategy of attack here so that they can get the one up on Sauron. And she's daydreaming, and they kind of call her out of that daydream. And they're like, "What do you think, Lord Commander Galadriel?" And she just turns around and she's like, "Oh, we need to send ships through this seaway and blah 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 blah," like it was no big deal. So, um, that's what that happens there. All of a sudden, the king Gilgalad here, who has for 8 episodes of the first season hated Galadriel, not hated. He hasn't been very fond of her. Like the first episode of the first season, he literally tries to cast her away into into the west, into Valinor, where the elves reside when they kind of perish, right? Like he was punishing her and getting rid of her from the lands of the elves. And all of a sudden now he's like getting real, he like thinks she's the bee's knees all of a sudden. So I don't know what gave him the change of heart. They're in this situation because of her. But all of a sudden she's very trusted by Gilgalad. Um, they want to make sure that Celebrimbor, because they're in different the elves are in different parts of the world, right? There's Eregion, where Celebrimbor is, and then there's Lindon, which is where this scene is happening, right? And they want to get word to Celebrimbor in Eregion that Sauron is coming, or Halbrand is Sauron, right? He doesn't know yet. He's unaware. So here, Sauron, this is Sauron in the middle, and he was from the first season. His name's Halbrand. He is going back to Eregion to kind of convince Celebrimbor that they should make some more rings. They already made the 3 Elvish rings, and those rings worked. According to Celebrimbor, those rings worked. And from the first episode of the second season, it kind of healed that tree that the elves were worried about. And he's come back to kind of rekindle his friendship with Celebrimbor to make some more rings, but Celebrimbor doesn't know that he's Sauron, right? We know that he's Sauron now. Everyone else knows that he's Sauron. So they tell him to leave. He's like, "Nah, I'm not going to leave. I'll just hang out here." And eventually, Celebrimbor, the older gentleman here, says, "Yeah, if he's not gonna leave, then I guess kind of just bring him up to my office, kind of thing." But that happens later. Here we find some people that are dead. This here on the floor, these are elves. These people that are dead. That thing on the floor there was it was a holder for the message that Galadriel and Gilgalad were sending to Celebrimbor to let him know that Halbrand was Sauron. So you assume that Sauron got to these people before they were able to get the message across. Then we skip over to this guy. I don't know who these people are. I have no idea. We saw a glimpse of this person in the first episode. I didn't know who it was then. Um, he was spying on Gandalf, not Gandalf, and Poppy Seed and Sesame Seed. He is now going back to his boss to tell him or give him an update on the whereabouts. His boss is in charge of the Nazgals, those girls who we don't know who they are either, but they're watching. Like this is the I don't know what like cult or what sect this is of Middle Earth. I'm unsure of that. People who maybe read the books, maybe you guys can help me out on that. I'm not sure, but um, this is the boss, and he wants an update of what's happening with Gandalf. He's concerned with Gandalf getting his powers. That's what he's concerned about. He doesn't want Gandalf. We don't know if it's Gandalf. I keep saying Gandalf. We don't know if it's Gandalf or not, but he doesn't want Gandalf to get his powers. So he gets this update. This is one of the Nazgals, and to him, she's kind of like a failure, I guess, where she's not doing her job by stopping Gandalf in his tracks or stopping him from progressing because you can see Gandalf is starting to learn more about his powers. Um, but then so he kind of dismisses her, and then the person with the mask comes along and says, "I'll take care of it. I got it." And the guy's like, "You sure you got it?" And he's like, "Yeah, I got it. Don't you worry about it." So then we go back to Sesame and Poppy. I want you guys to know, I know her name's not Sesame. Okay, her name is like Nori and Poppy. Okay, but I'm doing poppy seed and sesame seed bagels here. All right, so that's why I'm calling them that. So you got the bagel queens here. They're hanging out. They're looking at their map with Gandalf. He gives some words of wisdom. Yada yada yada. A lot of nothing happens here. I tend to skip their sections a lot because nothing really happens. They kind of just sit in the desert. Here's our bad guy again. They notice the bad guy is watching them and they hide from the bad guy. Okay. It's kind of like they hid from the. Do you remember in Fellowship of the Ring when Frodo and Sam and Merry and Pippin are leaving the Shire and they have to go to the Prancing Pony? And on the road, the Nazgul comes. Excuse me. And on the road, the Nazgul comes and all four of the hobbits hide underneath that tree. And the creepy Nazgul kind of creeps over and sniffs, and then they distract him and he runs away. That's exactly what they did in this scene. So they just ripped off that scene, but with Gandalf and Poppy Seed and Sesame Seed. Okay, we go back to Khazad-dûm with the cave under the mountain, under the mountain, and here we get three dwarf wives who are going to sing to the mountain. Okay, this seems like a ritual that is done frequently. Okay, the King Durin is there, and he's watching the ladies belt out some tunes. Here are the three ladies, and they're singing to the mountain. Now, this kind of sounds like something that would have been in the book. Again, I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't read the books in a long time. I'm more of a movie fan than I am. I love the books. I'm just not a big reader. And I haven't read the Silmarillion and all the other previous stuff, but I could see this being something where the dwarves kind of are in touch with the mountain that they live in because that's just part of their nature. And what happens here is it doesn't go the way they want it to, right? The mountain, I guess, doesn't react the way that it's supposed to, and part of the wall of the mountain kind of crumbles and collapses, and that's very worrisome to them because they think they're losing control over their environment and they think they're, something is wrong with the world, right? So something ain't right. So it kind of makes the dwarves very anxious at this point. And this is where Disa, talking to the king, they start talking about the son, Doran, Disa's husband. And she kind of just was like, you're both very stubborn and hopefully he'll get along one of these days and you should be open-minded. And she's kind of yelling at him. So that's what she does, right? She's a typical dwarf wife, I guess. Doran here's having a hard time. They skip over to Doran. Doran, because him and his dad are having a falling out, I think they kind of make him do menial jobs now. So like he's a prince, right? If his dad dies, he's the king under the mountain. And He's, like, doing just minor work, not minor as in minor, like minor, like miner. He's mining things, right? And this isn't something he would normally do. It's like if they made, the Prince of England, become a construction worker, right? Because he got in trouble, right? This is a punishment. So they're picking on the dude, right? The the union guys down in the mine. They're picking on the prince under the mountain here. So he gets into a fight with them, which kind of I actually like this scene. This scene wasn't bad. He kind of has to show his worth to to the miners and show them that he's not just a spoiled prince, I guess, living off daddy's money. It's kind of cool, I guess, if you want to take anything good out of this show. He goes back home after a hard day of work and a hard day of getting his ass kicked by the union workers to his lovely wife, who then berates him and tells him how wrong he is and yells at him after a very long day of hard labor. Right, just what every man wants in his life. I hope we're getting the sarcasm. Okay, but she's there. She's yelling at him, saying, "You gotta make amends with your dad because this mountain doesn't like us anymore. And I tried singing to it, and it didn't answer me back. And we're in trouble. And you better, not be so stubborn anymore. You stubborn men, stubborn, stupid men." Here she is. Hey, look, she's getting his face. Look at that. Look at that. He's just looking at her like, man, he wants to give her a right hook. And I don't condone violence against women, but he is. I can't see his hand there. He might be clenching a fist, but he doesn't. He doesn't do it. He's a good dude. He's a good dude. He doesn't do that. Despite she probably deserves it if I'm honest here, but like I said, I don't condone it. Um then we skip ahead to the elves. We see Elrond here helping build a ship or helping build something. I don't know what he's building, but he's helping carve something. He's talking to Galadriel. Him and Galadriel are on the outs right now, right? So he was firmly a believer that the ring should be destroyed. It ends up the rings were made properly. She comes and asks him. She's like, "Well, King Gilgalad has put me in charge of an army, and in charge of like a group. I'd like you to come on the group with us, right?" And he contemplates it, but he's skeptical, right? He doesn't necessarily want to do it, so he kind of gives her an attitude and respectfully declines. You know what's interesting? Elrond, this dude, okay, he ends up having a baby with Galadriel's daughter, right? Galadriel's going to have a daughter eventually. Elrond marries her and has a kid. That kid is Arwen, who marries Aragorn in the Lord of the Rings. Just a little tidbit for you. Who knows when that's going to happen? We haven't seen this lady's husband in a season and a half, right? We've gone through 8 episodes in the first season, 3 episodes of this season. Haven't seen this woman's husband anywhere. We've been in all of the elf lands. Haven't seen this dude. Wonder where he's at. He's probably wondering where she is. Okay, but whatever. Eventually. So he respectfully declines. She walks away. And then this is the guy who kind of betrayed Elrond. Elrond brought the rings to him and he said he would destroy them. And then he ended up bringing them to the king. We went through that last episode. Really not much here to talk about in this scene. Basically what he's doing here is he's just trying to convince Elrond that, listen, these rings are good and we should use these rings. And we're good people and we should use this power. Right? That's basically him. Then back to these morons. I mean, back to the Harfoots, Poppy and Sesame walking through the desert again. It's all they do is they're just for 2 episodes. Like, you know what it is with this show, and it's going to come up again later. There is so much time wasted on shit you don't care about or need for this. This is a very complex story, right? This is multiple books of great length, and they are spending 4, 5, 6, 10 minutes on absolute nonsense scenes that give you zero context for the actual story. There's one later on, I think it's in the next episode with Isildur, that I turned to Joe. Me and Joe were watching this together when he was here visiting, and I was like, dude, we've been watching this for 3 minutes and they're just crying to it. They're having a crying session, but we'll get into that later. But a lot of nothing's happening here. I honestly don't even remember these scenes. I don't remember them finding this well. I have no idea what this well's for or what it does. No clue. I don't know. I don't remember. They got water for Gandalf, not Gandalf. I guess. I guess they got him water. He got dehydrated, and now they're giving him water out of the well. There you have it. And then he finds the stick that reminds him of his staff. Right. That he's having dreams, and he's having dreams and visions about a staff. So he knows that he needs a staff, or he's looking for a staff. That's what's eventually going to give him his power. Right. I'm assuming the skull face mask person is going to stop him from getting, or try to stop him from getting a staff, which we know isn't the case because he gets one because he's a wizard. But there's your foreshadowing, I guess. He finds a stick, looks like Jesus' staff. Then we got a whole army full of Mad Max characters here. I don't know what these people are. They're kind of cool looking. I just don't think it fits into Lord of the Rings. It might. Maybe they're like those dudes in the movies that rode the Oliphants. Maybe they're kind of like, with those people. I don't know. Not sure. They haven't told us who they are yet. But sandstorm happens. Gandalf causes a sandstorm. They get away. Okay, we think they get away anyway. Okay, back to Celebrimbor. He realizes, and look how dark this is. The show is so dark, it's crazy. Okay, he gets visited, or he goes to see Halbrand, and Halbrand basically, tries to convince him to make some more rings, and that he needs Celebrimbor's help to make these rings. So they have a little bit of an argument, and he ends up inviting him in eventually. So he invites him in. He still doesn't know that he's Sauron, by the way. Right? So they're talking, and let's see, where does he end up changing from Halbrand to Sauron? At some point, he ends up converting or changing into a new character here. But he basically, Celebrimbor here says to Halbrand that he's willing to lie to the elves to make the rings that Halbrand wants to make. And I think this is very out of character for an elf, especially a high elf, as this guy is. Here, and I wish I wish I could remember. That's why I need a co-host with me that watches this stuff. But Halbrand like comes out of the furnace or the forge, and he's wearing a wig, and he looks like Jesus a little bit. He looks like blonde Jesus. There he is. And his new name, I think I want to say it's Iluvatar. I could be wrong on that. Okay, but he has a new name. He's still Sauron. He's just disguising himself with a fancy wig. He looks nothing like himself, right? It's like when Superman puts his glasses on and then becomes Clark Kent. No one can tell. Now there's more to that. I get that. Superman actually shakes his face to like super fast and makes his face look different. So that he doesn't actually look like he doesn't look like Superman when he takes his glasses off. Whenever he's as Clark Kent, he's using his super speed to like kind of change the way his face appears by shaking really fast. That's what I've heard. Okay, you can yell at me in the comments if I'm wrong. Please do. I would love to have some conversations with you guys. But he comes out of the fire and he's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I am the giver of gifts," or whatever the hell he says. And he never says his name. Everyone always asks him, "Who are you? What's your name? Who are you? What's your name?" And he's like, "I am the giver of gifts. I am friends of the elves. I am someone who is here to help." He never gives his name, which is kind of interesting, but kind of annoying at the same time. You think somebody would be like, "Listen, dude, tell me who you are before I punch you in the face or something." So that's that. And then at the end, we get a little bit of a turnaround because Elrond goes to Gilgalad and Galadriel. And remember, I told you before that Galadriel went to Elrond and said, "Hey, I'm leading this group. Do you want to be on my team?" And he's like, "Nah." Well, now guess what? Elrond is now the leader of the team, and Galadriel's going to be on one of his subservient workers, I guess. So a little twist of the tide there. So Galadriel's a little pissed off now, and now Elrond's kind of in charge of this whole thing. Doran here is reading an invitation that Celebrimbor and Sauron sent to him. They want him to come to Eregion to have a meeting. And what they're going to do is they're going to try to convince Durin to give them Mithril to make these rings, right? So what Sauron tried to convince Celebrimbor to do is he wants to make 16 rings to give to the dwarf lords and to give to the men, the race of men. If you remember the original movie, Lord of the Rings movie, Fellowship of the Ring, and the very prologue, it tells you about the One Ring and the other rings of power. And it says, 3 were given to the elves and 9 were given to men. And what were there? I guess 7 were given to the dwarf lords. So Sauron went to Celebrimbor in that previous scene and said, we need to make these 16 rings to give to the dwarves and give to the men. I don't know if he told them who he's going to give them yet to, but I think he might have. But that's where they're going to go, right? They're going to give them to the dwarves. They're going to give them to the men, so that he can control them, right? Because the One Ring rules all the rings, right? That's the whole point. The One Ring, the one that they have to destroy in Lord of the Rings, is when Sauron has it on, he can control every other ring that was made from him, right? So that's why he wants to do this. So, but he needs Mithril. Right? He needs that precious metal that only is found in Khazad-dûm, with this under the mountain where the dwarves live. So they send a invitation over to Durin to come and meet with them, and that's where the show ends. So then we go right into episode 3. I told you there's not much going on in these episodes. Okay, so as this commercial goes on, I'm going to switch over to, I don't want to give any free ads here. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen real quick, and then I'll go back to it when the commercial stops. But like I said, it was an hour. Like, this next episode's an hour and 6 minutes, and we haven't learned a lot. What did we learn? We learned that the dwarves are still mad at each other. The wife is still mad at the husband. The husband is still mad at his dad. We learned that. We learned that there's somebody chasing Gandalf and Sesame and Poppy. We know that. We know they're part of a cult now. Okay, we knew that they were being followed anyway. And now Sauron has a new name, and I'm pretty sure it's Iluvatar. I'm not. I have a feeling I'm wrong about that. Tell me in the comments if I'm wrong about that. I know it starts with an A, but I could be getting it mixed up with another name. There's so many names in these things. So let me put the screen on. The commercial ended there. But yeah, we haven't learned much. We really haven't learned much. We didn't learn much about the elves as far as what's going on with them, because I still don't know what's going on with Elrond and Galadriel, right? I guess they're going to move in and try to strike Sauron, but they don't know where he is. They're assuming he's in Mordor, right? Remember at that council they were having? I think they might have said I think they said a spy saw Sauron moving into Mordor, but he's not in Mordor, so their spies are wrong. Where'd their spy see that? Sauron's in Eregion. He's in the land of the elves with Celebrimbor. So how did anyone see him go to Mordor? I don't know. I'm not sure. He's not in Mordor. He goes to Mordor to make the One Ring, right? All right, so here we are, episode 3. Don't want to make this any longer than it needs to be here. Okay, we're going to skip the recap and just jump in. So here's our scene here. Power. Okay, so now we're going to revisit the Númenóreans. This episode really pisses me off. This episode is worse than episode 2. Right? Episode 1 so far, I think, is the best episode. I don't know why, but it's probably the best out of these 3. The second episode isn't as bad, but this one, the show's getting progressively worse. And I don't know if anybody's read the news on this show, but it lost like 50% of its viewers after episode 3, right? So however many people watched it for episode 1, it dropped 50% when you get up to episode 3. So it's not doing well. It's not doing well at all. This episode might have been the one that really pushed people over the edge, where they're like, I can't do this, because I don't want to do it anymore. I honestly don't want to watch episode 4. I'm going to because I want to do the show. I want to give you guys content, but I really don't want to. This episode is god awful because nothing happens. It's boring. Okay, so here is Elendil. He is the father of Isildur. I got to keep pausing so I don't get struck down. But he gets like you see this guy in the very very beginning of the prologue when everyone's fighting Sauron and he's kind of macing everybody. He just freaking hits people with a mace and they just go flying. He's one of the guys that kind of goes flying. Him and Gilgalad, the king of the elves, they fight Sauron on that mountain and they both die in the book there on that mountain fighting Sauron. And that's when Isildur, this dude's son, cuts the ring off of the hand of Sauron. Now that doesn't happen in the book. That's a little bit different as well, but they did that for the movie. This is his son's horse. His son, he doesn't know where his son is. He thinks his son died in the volcano at the end of season 1, and this is his son's horse. So he lets the horse go into the woods, and the horse he's hoping the horse goes and finds his son. He doesn't know if his son's alive or dead, right? He's hoping the horse finds him. So the horse makes its way into the woods, finds a couple of orcs. The horse kicks the shit out of these orcs, which was actually pretty cool because, like, the orcs are very disposable characters in this book, and they try to catch the horse and they just can't do it. And this horse kicks one orc through a freaking tree branch, and it like the tree branch impales him. But let's see if I can pause on it. I can't. Let's see if I can play it right here. Boom. So he gets impaled onto this branch. Does this remind you of anything from Fellowship of the Ring? It should, right? When Aragorn is fighting the big Uruk-hai, he gets impaled, or somebody gets impaled in the woods in that scene. I know it. There's a big orc who gets impaled. They just love reusing scenes. You gotta do what works, I guess, right? So the horse kicks the shit out of all the orcs and runs away. Ends up going into some dark cave. Why a horse? Horses are smart, right? Animals are smart. They know when danger is around, right? I mean, if there's anything you know about animals, you know that they can sense danger, right? We know I have a job where I have to interact with people in their homes, and you'd be surprised how many people give me jobs because they're like, our dogs liked you, so we're going to give you the job. This other guy came and gave an estimate, and our dogs didn't like him, so we're giving you the job. Oh, sweet! You've seen birds leave places that are going to have storms because they can feel it. This stupid ass horse, who just kicked the shit out of 4 orcs, walks into a dark, damp cave. Who knows where? Why would this horse go there? Okay, here's why the horse went there. I'm assuming this is the only thing I can think of that it can sense Isildur, right? Because it's on the hunt for its rider, right? Isildur is his rider. I can only assume that this horse is looking for his rider, and he actually finds him. Here he is. Here's Isildur, hurt, damaged. I have no idea how long this man has been in this cave. He's hurt. I don't know how he even got into this cave. Did he walk there? How is he so far away from the rest of the army that he was fighting with? I don't know. I just don't know why. If you're, I don't know. I'm at a loss here. The volcano goes off. There's a big dust cloud. You wait till the dust settles, and you look around for other people in your army. Right? He's like the only one that wandered off. But that's whatever. It is what it is. He's alone, very far away. You saw how far his horse had to go. Look at how far his horse had to go. He traversed all this land. See if there's a good picture of it before he gets to the orcs. Let's see. It even shows a map. No, I didn't. I must have skipped it. It's so far they have to show the damn map. But anyway, he finds Isildur here. He kisses him. He gives him a lick on the face. It wakes him up. Perfect timing, horse. Great job. Just in time to save him from all the spiders. Okay, in this cave, there are giant spiders, probably like 3 feet, 4 feet wide, big ass spiders. They have to be, like the babies of Shelob or something, right? If you remember Shelob from the movies. And they just so happen to be hatching out of their eggs at this very moment. Just fine. Who knows how long he's been in there? If he's been in there 4 or 5 days, he got lucky, right? He got lucky that these spiders are only hatching now when the horse gets there. Well, the horse helps him get out, obviously, right? Because we know he has to live. He's the one who cuts the ring off. See, that's another problem with this show, right? You really like they're spending a lot of time on this guy, putting him in very dangerous situations. And you know he can't die because he's the one who cuts the ring off of Sauron in the big war. So there are no stakes for him. So why you can't give me a scene with this man where I feel anxious for his life or I feel scared that he's going to die. It's impossible for me to do that because I know he doesn't die at all. So there's never a time where they want to convey that he's in danger to me where I buy it because I can't buy it because I know it doesn't happen. So they have to stop trying to elicit that feeling out of you with him because it's meaningless. Do something else with him, right? Show him being a good fighter or show him being courageous, something. But they keep putting him in these perilous situations where you don't know if he's going to get out. Of course, you know he's going to get out because he's there. He survives. We even know how he dies and when he dies. They show that to you in Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring, the prologue. They show you him dying. He gets shot in the river or the lake or whatever it is. But anyway, he gets out of here. There are some spiders. Here's a big ass spider. I don't know if you can see it. It's very dark, very very dark. There it is, big ass spider. There's like 5 or 6 of them. He fights them off. The horse helps him fight them off. They get out of the cave and run away. We go back to Numenor now. Okay, the king died. Now, the king is dead, and here's Isildur, and he's talking with his daughter, Arian? She's insufferable too. She's horrible. She's pissed off at the queen. Everybody's pissed off. Well, you're going to find out that everyone's pissed off at the queen. I don't know why. The queen did nothing wrong. I don't like the fact that the queen is such an integral part of this story because they made her like a warrior. She rode into battle. She's a friggin' queen. She shouldn't be riding into battle. That's number one. She's royalty. She's the next heir to the throne. Or at this time, she's Queen Regent, I guess, or whatever. But she shouldn't be in battle. She should be in the castle, very safe. There should be generals there, right? She shouldn't be in the battle because if she dies, what are you going to do? Now you're screwed. Now you don't have a leader, right? But everyone's pissed off at her. She rode into battle to save people from the orcs with her army. Part of her army died, and everyone's mad at her because she went to war and people died. Well, this girl, Isildur's daughter, has a big grudge because she thinks that her brother's dead, right? They don't know that Isildur is alive and just escaped the spider cave. So she has stolen. I don't know if this was in season 1 or not. I think it was. I think it was in season 1. But if it wasn't, it was definitely in season 2. There's a Palantir. I don't know if you guys know what a Palantir is. A Palantir is like a gypsy ball, right? You know how the gypsies have the crystal ball that they can see things in. Well, that's the Palantir is the crystal ball for Lord of the Rings, and there are several Palantirs around Middle Earth, and you can kind of communicate with the other Palantirs. If you have one, you can talk to someone who has another Palantir thousands and thousands of miles away. They were in Lord of the Rings. They were these orbs, and Saruman, the White Wizard, was talking to Sauron through a Palantir, right? So that's how we were introduced to them. So the Queen Regent had a Palantir, and she was kind of making her decisions based off what she saw in the Palantir. And this girl stumbled upon it somehow. She was sneaking around the castle. She found a key and a door she wasn't supposed to go into, and she went into it and she saw the Palantir, and she steals it. She steals the Queen's the Queen Regent's Palantir from her chambers. Like, this chick should be hung for treason. Like, she was definitely not supposed to be where she was. She shouldn't have been sneaking around the castle. She shouldn't have been in the queen's quarters. She shouldn't have stolen the queen's jewelry. The bracelet of the queen was the key to the secret door that she found. So she broke so many laws of this nation, and she's getting away with all of it, right? Which I think is treason, right? She should be killed. But anyway, she's very mad. They're having the funeral for the king who just died, and that's the Queen Regent right there. And she's blind. She got blinded by the volcano. Blinded by the volcano. Sorry. Revved up like a anyway. So she's blind. She's asking Elendil what's going on in the room, and we see kind of like the protagonist here, the antagonist of. Oh wait, I gotta show you this. Okay, there's an antagonist here called Alfarazon, but we'll get to him in a second. Here's a lady at the funeral, just some regular citizen, I guess, of Numenor. Watch this. She comes up and she bitch slaps the queen. Okay, watch. Boom! Just bitch slaps the queen. This woman bitch slaps the queen because her son died in the war that she just came from. This woman went, first of all, the queen, went into battle. She shouldn't have, right? So that should show you that she loves her people, right? She was willing to give up her life for her army. She went blind because of it. Her dad is now dead. This is her funeral for her dad. And this lady just bitch slapped her in the middle of everybody else, right? I have so many questions here. Number one, why wasn't there? This lady must have had the same protection Trump had in Pennsylvania, because no one stopped this lady from getting close to the queen. She's a normal citizen. It's not like she was like a highborn, lady, or a politician in the chamber or whatever. She's like just some lady off the street whose son died in the war, and she was able to get that close and attack the Queen Regent. We got to call the CIA here, or the FBI, whoever's in charge, and we got to replace all these agents right now, because that should not have happened. And now, but okay, fine, it did happen, right? It happened. She got bitch slapped. She should be hung. She should be hung with the sister. She should be put on display for all to see. You do not bitch slap the queen, because this is what happens to you. You get hung in public. In my opinion, that's what should have happened. Okay, but it doesn't. The queen is nice and says, "Why are you so angry? I'm sorry for your loss." She ends up giving the lady a big hug, and they cry it out. Give me a fucking break. I hope I don't get struck for that word, but give me a break here. Like, come on, are we serious? Seriously, this is what we're doing? They're hugging it out. She just slapped you in the face. You're blind. Your dad's dead. You did nothing wrong, and she's getting hugged out for it. It's just stupid. Okay, well, here's Alfarazon. Or Pharazon is his name, not Alfarazon. Pharazon. He's the antagonist. He's I think the cousin of the blind Queen Regent, and he doesn't want her to be queen. And he's trying to kind of oust her from being the queen. This little jewelry piece here, this is the queen going through her jewelry. That's the key that opens up the secret door to where the Palantir is. I'm not sure if she knows it's gone yet. You might have seen that. Yeah, this is definitely where you find out that the girl took it from her. Pharazon comes and sees her, and they have a discussion, and he's really strange with he's acting real aggressive with her. And she has to have a coronation now. She has to become the official queen of Numenor now. And he is, he's being strange. So what he's doing here now is he's holding up like linens of different colors, because he wants to help her pick out her coronation dress. And he's like putting it onto her face. Very strange. Like, he's a creep. He plays a good creep, but he's a creep. Okay. So they have this discussion about what color dress she's going to wear and why. All right. The white color is more for like tradition, and she's going to be a queen like her dad was a king. And the red is more of a color for the future of Numenor and a change for the better kind of thing. And he wants her to wear red, and she wants to wear white, blah, blah, blah. Who gives a shit? I want to know more about the lore and stuff like that. Well, she basically, kind of gets, you can see how uncomfortable she feels with him, and she just wants him out of the room. So then we go to this bar where Pharazon is discussing the queen and kind of discussing how to get the queen out of being the queen with other politicians. I don't know who this guy is. This guy, Lord Belzegar. I don't know. I don't know who he is or why he's there or how he's important. It's the first time we're seeing him. But also at the table is the daughter, Arian of um, Isildur's sister, and they're all sitting there talking shit about the queen, and they're doing this open in public in like a local pub in Numenor, and it's like full of soldiers. Here's a Numenorian soldier that was at the war that the queen just lost her sight in, and he's hearing these people talk shit about his queen, and he goes up to them and was like, "The next person that says anything about my queen is going to get punched in your face." That's basically what he says. He says it in a Tolkienian way, I guess, but he says it nonetheless. And that's what this whole scene is. He goes up to them. He's threatening this little twink. I don't know who this guy is. Valandil. Oh no, that's not. Valandil is the tough dude. This guy, Kemen. I don't know who he is. I have no idea. He's a little weasel, to be honest. He's one of these little weasel. He's like a kind of like maybe a master of whisperers kind of character in Numenor, kind of like Littlefinger. If you know Game of Thrones at all, he's like the keeper of the secrets. And this guy's just like, I'll bitch slap you, just like that queen got bitch slapped. You better sit down. And he does. He knows better. He sits down. And that's that scene. Okay, so they're conspiring against her. And then this, oh boy, this scene, holy cow. So we go to the orcs. And this guy on the left, he's the leader of the orcs. His name is Adar or Adar. And the orc behind him is like, do we really have to go to war? I don't want to go to war. And the dude's like, listen, we're never going to be accepted. And you're never going to be free unless we kill Sauron 100%. We got to get rid of Sauron. Okay. And he says, yes, Lord Father. Okay, whatever you say, Lord Father. Right. And here he is. This is when he says to him, listen, we're never going to be accepted. And he says, okay, now look in the back. Look over here. See that figure down at the bottom right-hand corner? Cradling something? That's a female orc. You know what she's holding? She's holding a baby orc. And she's scared. Check this out. Look. The orc that kind of just begged for no war has to go over and console. He's consoling his orc wife and baby. God. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? They're trying to make you feel bad for the orcs. And this is so on the nose. Like it's not even creative. And I'm not even going to say it out loud. I'm just going to say, is there a race of people that can be described as a race that is oppressed and they only act the way they do, quote unquote, because of the situation that they were forced to live in? Has that ever been brought up in like modern day politics at all? Maybe it has. I don't know. But this is really on the nose. Like the orcs are a mutated race of elf made by Morgoth. Morgoth was the original baddie in this whole world. Sauron was his right-hand man. And Morgoth made this race of horrible, monstrous elves to be his armies. You never see a female orc in the books, to my knowledge, because I looked it up. Because after I saw the scene, I was like, I have to look this up. And I was like, how are they having babies? Like, can orcs even have babies? Because like, if you look at like modern day science, if you clone something, like the clone can't, I don't think the clone is able to have babies because of whatever other reasons. But I'm like, can orcs even have babies? Like, how do they reproduce? I thought Morgoth reproduced them. Well, apparently, and I'll give this to them, they must have done a little bit of research on this. Tolkien says that the orcs reproduce just like other elves or other men, right? So they They're bumping uglies, the orcs, right? But we don't see a female orc, and we don't see baby orcs in the books or in the movies. And I don't know why they want you to feel empathy for these orcs. The orcs eventually are on Sauron's team. So I don't know how this whole thing works, right? Because at this point, all the orcs want to do is kill Sauron, and the leader of the orcs wants to kill Sauron. But we know that in the movies, the orcs are on Sauron's team, and they fight for him in every battle to the death. Don't you think at some point, if all of the orcs in this world hated Sauron, and then some of them go to Sauron's side, don't you think there would be a very large group of orcs that stay loyal to Adar and are anti Sauron, and maybe plead their case to the elves, and maybe join the elves, and maybe you have some orcs that join the elves, right? Like, it's like in the South for the Civil War, right? You had people who lived in the South that didn't want slavery. So they left and joined the North. And the people who continued to want slavery fought for the Confederacy. Don't you think that would happen with orcs? Where some orcs would be like, I'm staying here down here, and some orcs left to go to the other side. But they want you to feel empathy for these orcs. I don't know why. These orcs kill people. They go around killing people. They fought against a town in the previous season. The season ended with the orcs pillaging the town of men and fighting the elves. What did that town of men ever do to deserve getting slaughtered by the orcs? Oh, but it's not the orcs' fault. It's not the orcs' fault, but it's the way the orcs were brought up. It's the environment that they were forced into that made them that way. Right? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe that's the case. Don't know. But right now, they want you to feel bad for these orcs. This was one of the worst scenes, and this is the second worst scene in this episode. Okay, there we all look how sad he is. Look how sad this dude is, and he has a name. Glug. Glug is his name. What's his wife's name? Do they have a name for his wife? I don't think so. But that's Glug, played by Robert Strange. He pulls it off, man. Look at him. Look how sad he looks. You buy he's sad. Look how sad. Aw, poor Glug. Glug just wants to live the Middle Earth dream. He wants a black picket fence. He wants his little cabin in the woods. He wants to be making babies. He wants to be making little Glugs with his wife there. Look how beautiful she is. Look at that. Look at that face. Man. For orcs, she's hot. She's a hot orc. Anyway. So then they have a cave troll. Okay. Did we get introduced to the cave troll? And I heard some crazy rumor that the cave troll is based off of some character in Breaking Bad. I gave up after season 3 in Breaking Bad. I know people are gonna be like, "What are you, stupid? Are you insane? That show was so great." I wasn't a huge fan of it. I thought it was very redundant. The same shit happened all the time. He made drugs, he made a lot of money, the kid screwed up, he lost all the money. That's what happened in season 1, and that's what happened in season 2. He made more money, he found a better way to make drugs. The kid does something stupid, they have to spend the money to get out of the stupid situation they're in. So, that's that. But they introduce you to the cave troll. They don't do anything else with that as far as the cave troll goes. Oh, we got another ad. We got another ad here. I got to watch an ad. But let me turn that off while the ad plays. So, like I said, lots of nothing, right? Lots of getting mad and lots of nothing happening in this particular episode. Okay, we are back to the show. Let me put this back on for you. Okay. So now Durin goes to Eregion. They plead with him to give him the mithril. He says, I got to go talk to my dad about this. I can't just say yes. I got to talk to my dad about this. But we do find out that Durin, he's the only person in this show that I actually like and enjoy watching when he's on screen. This dwarf character is by far the best character in the show. And second is Elrond. Elrond does not bother me. I don't mind Elrond at all. But Durin, you can see he's talking to Sauron, who's going by another name which I can't remember. And you can see he doesn't trust him. He does not like this guy. He doesn't get a good vibe from this dude. Um, but he is pitching to Durin. He's like, listen, if you give us the mithril, it'll save your mountain. And we know your mountain's not acting nice, right? Your girls are singing to the mountain. Mountain's not talking back. We can fix that. Just help us, give us some mithril. We'll give you some rings. And these rings are so powerful, they'll fix your mountain. That's what he promises. I mean, he goes, all right, well, listen, I gotta go talk to my pops. And he leaves. His wife is bitching to him again. And he's like, I don't feel like I don't trust this guy. And she's like, you gotta, it's not your decision to make. Oh, that's all she does. Nag. Okay. But they end up going home. You see here that Sauron is getting very impatient. He really wants to get this mithril real quick and make these rings, probably because he knows that the elves are going to be on his tail because he just killed all the elves with the letter. So they're probably going to send another letter soon enough. So he wants to get this done. And Celebrimbor was like, relax, we'll get it done. Trust me, I've dealt with the dwarves before. That's basically what he says here. And this is where he admits to, I will lie to my bosses about this and tell them we need to make these rings. And Sauron's like, you'll lie to the elves? And he's like, yeah, man, I deserve it. I worked real hard for this. And I deserve to make these rings because of all the studying that I've done. And that's such a 2024 kind of attitude. Like me, I deserve this. I worked hard. I deserve it, right? It's my truth and it's my experience and it's my whatever. It's not very elvish to me. Elves don't act that way, in my opinion. So, but that's what that scene's about. So Sauron's like, oh, cool. All right. You'll lie for me. That's awesome. So here is Isildur. Isildur is riding on his horse through these woods. He's not doing too good. He comes upon a wagon. Okay. With a whole bunch of dead people around it. And you see under the wagon, they give you a glimpse of somebody hiding under the wagon. And he's checking stuff out. And it's a woman. And watch this. Watch what happens here to Isildur. This woman stabs him directly into the thigh with a very large blade. You saw that blade? Let's see if we can get a close-up of that blade. Hold on. Excuse me. Look at that blade. That blade is probably a good 4 or 5 inches. She thrust that thing directly into his thigh. There isn't a shot this dude lives in real life or in any other movie where they stab a guy through his femoral artery with a 5-inch blade. That thing's going to hit so much and do so much damage to this dude's leg. There's no way he survives, right? But he's going to. Why? Because he's the one who cuts the ring off in Lord of the Rings. So he has to survive, right? So here he is. He finds this woman. He pulls out the dagger. They put a tourniquet on his leg. This dude's going to bleed out. Like, you can't just leave that. You can't leave a 5-inch blade that went into your into your thigh. You're going to bleed out in a couple hours. This dude, he should be dead by all accounts. Right? It's just why'd they do it? He could have met the lady under different circumstances, but they had to make it unbelievable and stupid for some reason. And he just like brushes it off like it's no big deal. Like he's all, it's just a flesh wound. You ever see that Monty Python episode? It's a deadly wound. Very deadly wound. So he's like, okay, don't worry, we'll fix it and come with me and I'll save you. Why would you take this lady with you? She's obviously a moron. She just stabbed you through the friggin' thigh. But he takes her nonetheless. And guess what? He doesn't know where he is. I forgot to tell you that. He doesn't know where he is. He's completely lost. He's relying solely on his horse's ability to navigate him through wherever he is. But guess what? This lady happens to have a map of exactly the place that he wants to go. He wants to go to some town where Numenorians used to live. I never heard of the town, but that's besides the point. Doesn't matter if I never heard of it. But he wants to go to this town where the Numenorians used to live way back in the day. And she just so happens to have the exact map with the exact location that they need to go on. Thank God he happened to find this lady and she happened to stab him in the leg and she happened to have this map. I told you the empathy orc was the second to worst scene. This I forgot about this one. That's probably the second to worst scene. It's so convenient for them to find that. All right, so now they're traveling. Here it is, Pelargir, old Numenorian settlement. They happen to get to. It must be real close to where he was. Thank God they had that map though. So they get there. They get ambushed by some orcs. Not orcs. They get ambushed by some of Adar's men. Right, Adar is the leader of the orcs. He sends out these humans to trap other people. So they get ambushed. They fight their way out of it. And who comes? Well, they're trying to fight their way out of it. And who comes to save them? Don Lemondelf. Okay, Don Lemonelf. Elf Lemon. I don't know. The guy who looks like Don Lemon. His name is Arondir, this dude. And he does some cool flips and stuff. He kind of looks like Zelda when he's doing his flips and stuff. But, the elves are known for their agility and stuff. So I'm not going to give them any bad grade for that. He comes, saves them. He's very upset. You find out he's upset because his wife or girlfriend died in the first season, and they're having a funeral for her. Here's her funeral. That's her wrapped up in the cloths. I don't know why she is in Pelagar, or wherever the hell they are. She most likely they must have dragged her body there because she didn't die anywhere near here. She died in her own settlement, but they brought her here. They're having the funeral. The son is there. Her son is there. The guy who looks like the the guy who lives under the tree in Princess Bride. Okay, there he is. There's the son right here. And if you guys know who I'm talking about, the Princess Bride, you know who I'm talking about. But then this is kind of his mourning. He kind of mourns the loss of his girlfriend. And now the dwarves get back together. Okay, Doran goes back to his dad and kind of apologizes to him about being a jerk and why they're not talking. He kind of mends. He's trying to mend his relationship with his dad. And he tells his dad what happened. He tells his dad, listen, the elves invited me over to Eregion. They told me that if we give them some mithril, they'll give us some rings that can save the mountain. And I think, I think it'll work. However, I don't trust these elves. I don't trust this guy who the elves have with them. But just to let you know, okay? Isildur is getting tended to by Theo. Theo's mom is the one who died, and Theo's mom was a healer. So I guess he kind of inherited her job as the healer of the tribe, so to speak here. Wow. Man, my kids just love ruining live streams. So he's trying to tend to him there. And now we see a scene here with Theo. This is another scene I don't need. Theo is mad at the elf because his mom's dead. It's not the elf's fault, right? There's no reason why this kid should be mad at this elf for any reason. The wife shouldn't have been there. The wife shouldn't have been in the fight. She put herself there, just like all these other characters that put themselves into situations they shouldn't be in. And she ends up getting killed. And he's like, you know what? Screw you. And you're not my dad. And, I don't want you in my life. Never talk to me again. That's what this scene is. And he's like, okay, so now you think he's gonna turn Moreau. He's gonna go bad. Okay, but we'll see. So then Isildur starts talking to this kid, trying to raise his spirits up. And I think he might have lost his horse again. Yeah, his horse got stolen when he got jumped. When he got jumped by the men and the elf guy had to come and do his Zelda tricks and save him. The horse ran away again. So now he's sad he lost his horse. So Theo was like, meet me outside at this time and I'll help you get your horse back. I know where your horse is. So apparently the horse was kidnapped and they're going to go find the horse. But before they find the horse, this is the worst scene in the whole episode. This is the lady that stabbed Isildur, and that's Isildur. They're next, sitting next to a fire. And she basically starts crying about her fiance that she can't find. And she starts crying about her mom that she lost when she was a kid. And then Isildur is like, yeah, I lost people too. And I know how hard it is. This goes on for like 3 or 4 minutes. And I don't need the crying session between Isildur and this stranger that we just met over the loss of their parents. and the loss of loved ones, because it doesn't add. It's not. You could be using those 4 or 5 minutes to be giving me more information about the show and what's going on with the main characters that we need to learn about, right? I don't need this crap. This was like 3 or 4 minutes of the show that didn't need to be in there. And not for nothing, these people should be way harder. Like they're a hard people. These are people that have known war their whole lives, right? If you talk to people from World War II and people from the Great Depression, they were hardened people by their experiences, and they didn't cry and bitch about things and feel sad about it and feel sad about it. They pushed their emotions real deep inside them. And that gave them their own problems, right? But these people should be hardened. They should understand that the world is full of death and the world is full of war, and we're part of that. And they're just having little wimpy crying sessions to each other. They just met each other and they're having these little wimpy crying sessions. This to me was the worst scene in the whole entire show. It went on and went on and went on and went on. Look how much I'm clicking the 10-second thing, and it just keeps going. Just keeps going. Keeps going. And then she ends up having the sign of Sauron on her neck or something like, or the sign of Adar on her neck, and she burns it off. So she was on the bad team, and now she's, I guess, converting to the good team. They find the horse. The horse was taken by some thugs, the thugs that, jumped him on that trail. And Theo is going to kind of like make a distraction so he can get the horse. And in doing so, he gets the horse back, but Theo gets captured. Right? Theo gets captured. Now we go to this scene where the queen is there for her coronation, and it kind of goes south on her. Right? All the people in this coronation are kind of yelling at her and booing her, and they don't want her to be the queen. And they're no one is like really standing up for her at all during this. Like the people are again, like, why are you inviting people that have negative feelings towards the queen to the coronation, right? Just like why was that woman allowed to get so close to her? But Farazan is there, and there was this when her dad was coronated king, an eagle showed up to his coronation, and that eagle was like a good sign, like a good omen that he was going to be a good king or whatever, right? So when things are going bad here, the daughter of Isildur, the sister of Isildur, comes out and shows the plant, and now she is now admitting that she has stolen royal property, right? And she shows everybody this Palantir, and everyone gasps, she has a Palantir. She's a fucking queen. Like, she's going to have stuff that you don't have, right? The government has secrets, and that's her secret, right? She's using a Palantir, and she's not using it against her citizens. She's using it to make better informed decisions. Whether those decisions are the right ones or not is beyond me, but I don't know why everyone's so, aghast at this, right? So the daughter comes out, and here's another reason why the daughter should be executed, right? She's just showing that she ransacked the castle and stole royal property. So everyone gets mad at her. They start yelling at her. Farazan starts using this kind of dissent that's happening in the room to kind of convince people that she shouldn't be queen. And then all of a sudden, an eagle shows up, and people kind of think that the eagle is there for Farazan. But why would it be? It's her coronation. It wasn't his coronation. It's her coronation. The eagle's there. It should have been for her, right? The eagle's there for her. But the eagles don't talk in this show. I'm almost 100% certain the eagles can speak. And unless they can only speak to Gandalf, who can speak to animals. But I was under the impression that the eagles could speak, but I guess they can't, because it then doesn't matter, because in this show they can't speak. The eagle just, yells and cacaws, and everyone's like, "Oh, the eagle came for Farazan. Farazan should be the king." And that's kind of how that scene ends, where everyone kind of thinks that the eagle's there for Farazan and that he should be king, and he takes the sword and basically kind of claims the throne for himself, which is kind of what happened in the books. I know she got pushed out. He pushed her out and didn't let her become queen. So I guess that's kind of similar. Now we skip back to the Forge, where King Durin has agreed to give the elves the mithril to make the rings. And that's what happens here. We have the elves, we have Durin, we have the dwarves all together in the Forge. They drop the mithril into the fire, and the mithril is then used to make the rings of power for the dwarves and for the men, and that's where the episode ends. So, yeah, that's the episode right there for you. I haven't watched episode 4 yet. I am I don't know if I want to, but I'm gonna. Tell me what you think of the show. Tell me if you like the show. Tell me if you're watching the show. Tell me if you're not watching the show. Tell me if you want me to stop doing this, because I won't do this. I'll do stuff you want me to do. Tell me things you want me to do, right? If there's a show you want me to watch, if there's a movie you want me to critique or a comic you want me to read, tell me in the comments. Let me know if you want me to stop doing this and do that instead. I think it might make for good content sometimes because I get I get kind of animated with it because it's something that I feel passionate about and it's just done so poorly. I think they could. I think they actually can do this in a good way to where it's compelling, because I'm at the point where it's like I gotta just I gotta just stop comparing it to the movie, right? And I think I've done a pretty good job at that, but the show just stinks. They're just wasting so much time, and I really would have rathered them just try to create their own world and not call it Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, because they're changing the lore so much that it's becoming a different story. It's not the story, right? You can take liberties and you can change things to help fit the show, but there's a lot of show. There's 8 hours of show, right? And multiple seasons of 8 hours of show. So if you have 3 seasons, that's 24 complete hours. You can probably do a lot with 24 hours of content, right? Lord of the Rings did it in 9 hours, right? Those 3 movies are 3 hours each and told 3 books worth of stories in those 9 hours. Could you imagine what you would have gotten from Peter Jackson if he had the ability to give you 24 hours of movies? I'm assuming it would have been amazing. Now, The Hobbit, on the other hand, which I'm not a big fan of The Hobbit, the movie The Hobbit. I love the book. The book is a tiny little thing. It's like a children's book. Well, not like a Bluey type of children's book or a Dr. Seuss type of children's book, but it's a small novel. Kids can read it. Kids, younger kids aren't going to read Lord of the Rings. They're big, chunky novels, and there's 3 of them. But Hobbit's very manageable. They shouldn't have made 3 movies out of that. That didn't need that didn't need 9 hours of screen time to tell that story. And because of that, they had to add so much to make it 9 hours worth of content to where the story just was different and it stunk. And here, I don't think they're paying attention to what needs. They're using the time that they have. They have lots of it, but they're not using it constructively to help move the story along, right? Like, you could have told me that this lady had losses in her life and that Isildur can understand that in way less than 4 minutes, right? There's better ways to do that. And also in these 2 seasons, they're rolling their R's like, oh my god, I can't roll my R's, but it's like Chewbacca. It's like they're Mordor, Sauron, right? They're all like all the R's. The R's are everywhere, right? And it's I don't know. It's overdone. And whenever like Galadriel sees somebody, she has to say their name. She's like, Elrond will walk in the room. She'll go, Elrond. Like, I know it's Elrond. You don't have to announce his name. And she does it for everybody. There was one scene where I think it happens like immediately after one another. It's it's crazy. But episode 1 was the best one. It's getting progressively worse through episode 3. And I'll watch episode 4. I'll give you an update on episode 4. I have a treat for you guys though. Supposedly, Mike is gonna my good friend Mike from my old podcast is gonna join me on Sunday night this week to do a podcast with me, and I'm trying my best to convince Joe and Seb to join us. But we're gonna do a podcast, me and Mike. We're gonna talk about stuff. It's gonna be very much like our old podcast. If you listen to that, we're gonna try to make it like that as much as we can. Next week, we got Sebi and me are gonna do a kind of like a tribute live show to our one of our favorite bands, Oasis, who is getting back together. We're gonna talk. It's gonna be all Oasis. Um, tune in for that. It's going to be good. If you don't like Oasis or you don't know any of their music, still tune in. We're gonna talk about our experiences with Oasis and things like that. All right. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Come and join the chat sometime. I'm here. I post it on Instagram. Okay. We have an Instagram page. Follow the Instagram page, Toxic Fandom Podcast. Find us on Instagram. I put posts up when I'm going to go live so you guys can know and come and join me. Okay. I'm in Central Time. So I try to do it as early as I can so the people in the East can get on and watch the live shows at a reasonable time. But yeah, thanks for listening, guys. I'll see you next time.